I'm Corey Strumman. Welcome to the Rochester Rising podcast, where we amplify the stories of entrepreneurs in Rochester, Minnesota. Thank you for spending some time with us today to learn more about small business and the culture of entrepreneurship in Rochester. We hope that you learned something today from a local entrepreneur that can help you with your own journey. Rochester Rising is a part of Collider, a Rochester-based nonprofit that activates, connects, and empowers early-stage entrepreneurs in our community. You can learn more about Collider and how our organization can help accelerate and assist your journey at collider.mn. We release a podcast episode the second Wednesday of each month here at Rochester Rising, which you can find on the Collider website or wherever you best like to listen to your podcasts, including on YouTube. We also have many articles and videos that we have created over the years, telling the stories of both new and very experienced business owners. You can find all of that content on our website. We launched Rochester Rising in 2016 to tell stories of entrepreneurship taking place within the city of Rochester, Minnesota, especially stories that otherwise would not have been told, and to take the time to understand each entrepreneur and what their experience has been like in this community. If you find value in this podcast, please consider donating and lending support to Collider's efforts to share the stories of Rochester entrepreneurs and inspire others on their journey. We use the local business For Giving for our fundraising. You can find more information about our tip jar and how to donate through For Giving in our show note. I want to take a moment to thank our storytelling sponsor, Frederickson and Byron, for their support. Their Midwest-based law firm is known as the firm where law and business meet. Their attorneys provide practical legal advice and advocacy to help people achieve their business goals. Just as Collider amplifies the voices of Rochester's business community, Frederickson and Byron help new and growing businesses with a full range of services, combining a common-sense approach with decades of experience to get things done for clients. Without further ado, let's get started. This week on the podcast, we chat with local entrepreneur Josiah Hanson, who, with his wife, started the local leather goods business Hanson Leather Company. Well, thank you for joining me on the podcast today. I'm excited to hear your story.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself. What are your hobbies and interests outside of Hanson Leather Company?
Well, I'll start off with my name. My name's Josiah Hanson, and my wife, Brianna, and I own the company, and we're based out of Rochester. And I grew up here, actually, and my wife grew up in the Chicagoland area.
Oh, sure.
So we got married and then moved back here, and yeah, I've done the business a little longer than we've been married, so she jumped in with it, and yeah, we've just been flying ever since. It's been a good time. As far as like interests outside of Hanson Leather Co., I would say I love photography. That stems back further, actually, than leathercraft does. My mom used to have like a little camera, actually.
Oh, really?
And I used to play with that a lot and just try different things with the camera. And
was it like an old film camera? Or?
Oh, I wish, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I really wish. No, it was a digital camera. So that was like really cool at the time. I was like, oh my gosh, like a digital camera. Whoa.
Yeah, totally.
But actually, I would love to get into film photography at some point, someday. That's an interest of mine as well.
Yeah.
Other than that, coffee is a huge interest of mine. I know we've met at a couple of coffee shops before,
yep,
or come across each other. But yeah, coffee, and we love exploring the state of Minnesota. We're big fans, and so yeah, that's just some things outside of Hanson Leather Co. that we like to do.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are fun to follow on Instagram with all of your adventures, and obviously your photography is awesome based on that.
Thank you.
So how did you first become interested in like hand craftsmanship and leather work?
Okay. So my dad and mom have always been handy and did a lot of they did a lot of projects on the DIY type stuff, you could say. So I've always been interested in things like forging and woodworking and stuff like that. To be honest, I didn't even know leathercraft was a thing until much later on into my like teen years and stuff. So, but yeah, I was always interested in seeing people make really cool things out of just like raw materials and stuff like that, like wood and metal. smithing too, like people that make jewelry and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just always found that fascinating. So that's always been a part of my curiosity. And so when I was introduced to leathercraft, it just was perfect. I just went down that rabbit hole and I never looked back pretty much.
Totally.
So,
were you like in college or when did you get into it?
yeah. So I was in college, and a buddy of mine that lived here in Minnesota, he worked at the Leather Guy down in St. Charles, which is where we get a lot of our leather from. He challenged me to make a belt, which I still wear today. And it's been like
awesome.
8 years. Yeah. So that speaks to the quality of leather that they have there. And so, yeah, he taught me how to do that. I went there and he showed me the things I needed to get. And I made the belt. And, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing at the time because I was just getting started, but YouTube has been a big help, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've watched probably thousands of hours by now of other crafters and learning techniques from them, picking that up. But yeah, that's how I got started. Was he challenged me to make a belt, and from there on, I had there's always people that come up and ask you to make this for me. I've always wanted this dream thing.
Yeah.
So the next thing was a wallet, which I did sell to the guy. And it was a piece of crap.
Oh, no.
I'm not going to lie. I had no idea what I was doing. He showed me a picture. He's like, can you make something like this? I was like, sure. So I didn't use a pattern, didn't use any of the proper tools. I just made it happen. And he bought it. So,
well,
and since then I actually got that wallet back. So I have that first wallet, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's super cool.
I replaced it with a better one.
Hey, nice. You got to start somewhere.
That's right. Yeah.
So at what point did you kind of decide to take that step from being like a hobbyist that took on jobs for like people you knew to doing it professionally?
So starting out, you're just learning all the things and new techniques. You're asking people questions and getting an idea of for me in my case, how leather works and how you can actually use it and what you can make with it and stuff like that. So I did that for a bunch of years, and I'm going on 8 years now with leathercraft as a thing. But really, it was when I got back from school. I was here at Dwell Local.
Oh yeah.
We were just visiting the place and checking it out, and Paul, he's like, we've got an Oktoberfest coming up, and he invited us to come to that. Well, actually, it started out because Bree was bragging about a bag that I made for her as my first tote bag. And he was like, whoa, you made that bag? That's so cool. And he's like, come on over to the Oktoberfest. And so that's where we got started the first time here. It was here in Rochester at Oktoberfest at Dwell Local.
That's really cool.
When it was in town. So that was really cool. And then to see people's reaction to stuff that I had made, I was just making a bunch of stuff, like a bunch of random stuff, different bags and whatever. But to see people's reaction to stuff we had made was really cool. And then to see people being willing to pay for it too was kind of a mind-blowing experience.
Yeah.
So that was where I kind of got hooked, was when people started to respond to stuff that we were making.
Sure. Do you remember what year that was?
Not off the top of my head.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
I remember I know from being in town and also have heard from a lot of people that do like craftsman type stuff or started small businesses that there was such a big boom in Rochester in 2014, 2015, 2016, where people just started really getting interested in local goods and local businesses and stuff like that. So I was curious if maybe it was around that time.
It would have been around that time because I graduated in 2016.
Okay, sure.
So it would have been about that time. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. As you were getting started, I guess, on that more professional side of it, what were some of the bigger challenges that you faced during that time, if any?
Oh, there were. Okay, so this is a good question. One of the biggest challenges, and we kind of just finally are getting a grasp with it, is coming up with our style, I guess you could say. Because with leathercraft, there's a ton of different avenues you could go down. You could be all Western. You could be rugged looking. You could have super high fashion bags. You could do Scandi mod. So I was like, all of these different avenues you could go down, and I didn't know what we were. Sometimes we'd have people say, "Oh, I love your style," and I was like, I don't even know what style it is.
Oh, sure.
I just make what I like. So we started, especially last year, we did shows just like crazy. It was almost every other weekend. Sometimes we'd had a couple of weekends where we did 2 shows in a day, which was pretty wild.
Sounds like a lot.
Yeah, we were pretty tired by the end of the day. But we were really focusing on our style and nailing that down. And so we've decided to go in the direction of women's handbags and purses and things like that, and accessories. But before, it was all over the board. Like I said, at that first show, we had all sorts of stuff, and our booth looked rough. And we try to be more curated now and be a little more professional looking, and kind of have a cohesive look to everything we put out. So that was one of the hardest things, and we just finally this year decided where we're going with what we're making and the direction we're going.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. The clutch that was made for me by you, I absolutely adore. I think my friend Rosie had you make it, and it is one of my favorite pieces to this day.
I do remember, that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And it has held up very well. And
the dump clutch.
So beautiful. Exactly. Yes. I love it. I think kind of hinging off of that stylistic question, where do you kind of bridge the gap between people asking you to make things and staying true to your style now that you've figured it out?
A lot of saying no.
Yeah.
Which, that could go right in there with the difficulties, because, you'd get a request for all kinds of stuff, and your first reaction would be like, yeah, I'll do it. And then you say yes, and maybe you get paid, and then you're sitting there thinking, now how do I do this? Because I still don't know all the different techniques of the different things that you use to make different leather goods. Like, I've never made an eye patch before. So if someone asks me, can you make me an eye patch? And I'm like, sure. Well, I don't know how that works. So then I got to spend the time to research that, and you really fall in the hole pretty quick with taking those kind of projects. So I've had to say no a lot to that. And really, if it doesn't fit in what I'm trying to do, like the style we're going for, I have to say no. And I kind of hate doing that, but at the same time, I regret saying yes too.
Right.
If it's something that I really am not familiar with, and then I'm spending a lot of time doing that instead of what my goals are, and I get sidetracked from my goals. So having to say no has been a big thing I've had to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's tough.
Do you find when taking jobs like that, you kind of factor in like, oh, if I have to spend all this time learning, I'm probably going to have to charge you more money.
Oh, yeah.
Because of this.
Oh, yeah. And you get burnt a lot at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because you really don't know how long it's going to take you to tackle that job.
Yeah.
And so you lowball it, and then you get burnt at the end.
Right. Oh, that's frustrating. Well, so you've been doing a lot of shows over the past couple of years, you mentioned. Did you find that the pandemic negatively affected the business?
Okay, yes and no. Well, yes, for sure. For sure, yes. But it also helped us, not helped us. There were positive and negatives to the pandemic. So we'll start with the positive. We didn't have a website before the pandemic. That was one of those dream things I needed to get done,
Sure.
And I knew it needed to happen. But we had a show. We had a show that we paid for in advance, and then it got canceled in person, and so it went online. Well, we didn't have a website, so I was like, "Oh shoot, we got to have a website here in like 4 months or 4 weeks, even." I don't remember the exact amount of time, but it was fast, and I was like, "Okay, so we'll start working on a website." And then I realized how many photos you had to take for a website, especially an e-commerce website. Yeah. So we were going crazy getting that website up. So that forced us gave us kind of a deadline to get those bigger projects done, which was a blessing. So we got that done. But at the same time, all of our shows that we normally would be doing got canceled. So it was just a long time of no shows. So we took that time to really focus on what we actually were trying to do with the business. Because sometimes you can get bogged down with just like the nitty gritty, and then you lose track of your main goal. And so we took our time to really think through our business and what direction we wanted to go with it.
Do you find that Rochester has always been a supportive community for yourself and for other small businesses?
I would say yes for us in our experience. Like I said before, our first show was here in Rochester. And the folks that we have gotten to know here have been very encouraging to us in that. And I have no problems with Rochester as far as being supportive of small business in my experience. Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, totally. And you feel that like maybe the show culture is always really accepting of new people coming in and stuff like that.
Yes, in my experience, it has been good. It's grown, I would say, since we started doing them. Thursdays downtown has been here for 18 years, something
Longer
like
than
that.
me.
A long time. So it's only last year that we started doing that one.
Okay, sure.
So we started doing that one last year, but then there was other smaller markets that we'd be involved in. Blue Duck has done, I think, Valentine's Day and in the holiday season.
Yeah, yep.
Which has been really nice. And then there was the night market last year, which was pretty wild. That was one of the ones that we did 2 in one day.
Oh, sure.
We were in Northfield in the morning, and then I came back and then immediately set up at the night market.
Oh my goodness, that's a little bit of a drive too.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So, but the shows they've been growing. There's been more opportunities lately, which has been awesome.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm excited to see all the different ones that come about this year. I was excited to see that night market is coming back, which is exciting. Do you think you guys will apply to be in that again?
I hope so.
Yeah.
We've already got shows planned through October.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Good
we
for
sat
you.
down and got a bunch booked out. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good summer.
Well, best of luck.
Thank you.
So, of the leather products that you make, what are some of your favorites to work on?
So we've really been focusing on bags lately, purses and handbags, clutches. So that is what we're the most stoked about right now.
Yeah.
Brie actually did her first design, which we're pretty excited about.
Oh, awesome.
The Iona, which we're doing the pre-order for now. So we looked at our collection of bags, and there was a couple gaps, and that is one that we're filling the gap with is the Iona. So it's like a shoulder bag. And when we design things, we're trying to keep we call ourselves aspiring minimalist because it's kind of a hard thing to keep track of and to keep doing. So our designs are a little bit more that we want to be clean design, have clean designs, kind of a minimalist style to it.
Sure.
Functional, of course. So that the design that she had in her mind, we were able to execute it, which was a good feeling because sometimes you'll have a design in your head and then it doesn't come across in like 3D form at all.
Sure.
So it came together, and yeah, we're pretty excited about it. And now this was Brie's first design, so hopefully she'll have some more ideas in the future.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to have her as a part of the process.
That's exciting. That's awesome. Good for her. Do you prefer the design process or the manufacturing process? Or is it a tie?
Yeah, that's tough. Okay, so there's a part of the design process that I love. I love to just like sit down at a coffee shop. I like to sit down and think of ideas, like brainstorm. I love that part of it. I love like sketching it out on paper. I'm a terrible artist, but I sketch it out on paper and try to figure out how we could actually execute it. But then there's a part of the process where you're getting really into the nitty gritty and you're like eighths of an inch this and that.
Oh,
and then that part is, you start getting bogged down. Then I start losing excitement.
Sure.
But when you get your first prototype done, I'm back. It's really exciting to see that first prototype come to life. But then I also really like the manufacturing part of it. It's kind of, you could say, therapeutic.
Sure.
I used to hand stitch everything, which was therapeutic until you're doing a bunch of bags, and it was
really
not
tedious
therapeutic
at a certain point.
But I do love, getting into the shop and having my list of things to make, like a couple bags and a couple, wallets or something like that, and then just like start knocking it out. Put some tunes on or a podcast, and then just start going to town. I do enjoy that part of it too.
Yeah.
So kind of a tie, I guess you would say.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite shop tunes?
I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
I don't have a favorite. I'm the worst when it comes to favorites.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Mostly listen to podcasts, to be honest. And I've really gotten into documentaries because I can just like have it in the background. And it's almost
sure.
like a podcast because I don't have to watch it all the time.
Yeah.
So documentaries have been huge lately.
Nice.
Yeah.
One of my favorite documentaries is Jiro Dreams of Sushi. I don't know if you've watched that one.
I haven't. What's that on?
It was on Netflix for a while.
Okay.
I think it might still be.
Okay.
But highly recommend if you haven't seen it yet. So where do you source your leather from?
Okay, that is a good question too. St. Charles is where we were first introduced to leather.
Okay.
And it's only like, I'm going to probably get this wrong, 40 minutes from here.
That sounds about right.
So it's an easy drive. We get all of our natural veg tan leather. That's kind of the natural colored one.
Sure.
That we use. We get all of that there, and then some other leathers there. But then we also get some leather from a tannery in Pennsylvania called Wicked and Craig.
Okay.
So it's quite local. You could say.
Sure. Was it hard to select them? Like, obviously, you want a really high quality product, and I wouldn't even know where to start with choosing like a high quality leather.
I could get real nerdy with it if you want.
Totally up to you.
No, you'd not care.
Okay, fair enough.
Probably. Yeah, there was a process of working through a bunch of different leathers to figure out what works best for us. But then also what works best for individual projects. So, there's some leathers that are more stiff and some that are more, flexible. Mm-hmm. And so you can use those for different projects. And some just won't work with other projects. So learning that, those are like the nuances of leathercraft. Sure. And, it took a while to figure out. And also they come in different thicknesses and stuff, which is important too, when it comes to constructing a bag, because you don't want way too thick of a bag, and then it turns into this heavy, massive monster that no one wants.
Sure.
So, there are all those little things that you had to work through.
Sure. Well, what are some future plans for Hanson Leather Co.?
Well, I have got 9 million dreams and not enough time for all of it. The dream is to go full-time with the business. Because
you work part-time at Mayo right now, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So, sorry. Did you say part-time?
I did.
I do work full-time.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
I do work full-time at Mayo. So
wow. What do you do at Mayo?
I'm in the pharmacy.
Okay.
Pharmacy technician.
All right. Well, so this is like really a side hustle then.
Yeah. So I've just recently started calling myself a leather craftsman that also works at a hospital.
I love it.
So
that's great.
That's kind of how I have to think about it. Mm-hmm. But I do put in a decent amount of hours into the business. I get home. I usually start at 5:30 and work till 10, 11 at night.
My goodness.
So that's my routine. I get home and I eat and make a cup of coffee, and I drink coffee up until 11. So I really like this stuff.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it keeps me going.
Yeah.
So, but as far as dreams go, that is the dream, to go full time. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know, the dreams, right? Like I think it would be the coolest thing to design a space like a storefront. That'd be like the dream. That'd be so amazing. I love like curation, and some people are just so good at taking a space and making it so inviting and completely fitting the vibe that they're going for. And I think that would be really cool someday. Who knows? Dreams.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be amazing. Well, what advice would you give to others that are kind of considering starting a small business or turning their hobby into a small side business?
Well, I can only speak from experience.
Of course.
But I will say, you just gotta. I feel like some of these things you just have to really put in the time, and be ready for the opportunity when it comes up, and then take the opportunities and everyone's story is going to be a little different. So I have friends that, started around the same year that I did with this business, and they got certain opportunities and they were on top of them, and now they're doing it full time. Or, so everyone's story is a little bit different, and depending on what type of business it is, also that changes things. But
of course.
Yeah, just like putting in the time and learning if it's like a craft or something, or like working with your hands, like you got to put in the time of learning the craft so you can become professional.
Yeah, of course.
So I feel like a lot of the time that I've been doing this has been about learning the craft, and now I'm finally getting into the business side of it, which is really exciting to me, to learn business. So, and that's like, those are like two different things,
right.
But in order to make the one thing happen, going full time, you have to learn both of them. So yeah, you just got to put in the time.
Absolutely. On all fronts.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. This was great.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It's always fun.
Great.
Love talking about our story.
Yes. So. Love hearing it. And I'm excited to share it. Thanks so much to Josiah for sharing his story. You can learn more about Hanson Leather Co. by checking out the link in our show notes. And thank you for tuning into the podcast today. We are so appreciative of your time spent listening and your support of our work here at Collider. If you know an entrepreneur who would benefit from the conversation today, please share this podcast with them so they can benefit from the experience of other business owners in the community.